All right, before we get the show started, I have to give a huge shout out to a special group of individuals that I like to call my Patreon podcast producers. And you know what? They're all on Instagram, so make sure you give them a follow. Daryl at Your Level Fitness, Kaitlyn at Kaitlyn Elise, put 3 Y's in her name, Vanessa at Vanessa Ray's Journey, and Amanda at Mutts_and_Miles. These guys are helping this show to move forward in a huge, huge way. And if you want to join this special group of individuals, make sure you stay tuned at the very end of the show for more details. Are you Team Apple? I got to shout out all of you checking out this show right now on an iPhone, iPad, etc. In fact, nearly 70% of you are listening to me on one of these devices. It would mean the world to me if you took a moment to leave a review. This is one of the best things that you can do for this podcast to help get the word out. And while you're at it, leave reviews for some of your other favorite shows. I bet they would really dig it.
Oh?
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing really good.
I'm glad to hear it. How is Key West, right? Is that where you're at right now?
Yeah, right now I'm in Key West. It is 85 and sunny during the day with a nice breeze coming off the water. It's beautiful.
You sure know how to make a guy jealous. Let me tell you what, I'm sitting here in Northern Virginia. It's about mid 40s right now. It was easily nearly 70, no less than 3 hours ago. What on earth is going on here?
That's Virginia though.
Yeah, you got that right. Now do I have this right? You're from Virginia?
I am, yeah, down in Norfolk.
Okay, right on. Yeah, I was born and raised in the Northern Virginia area. I don't know how often you ever made it up here, but yeah, the weather, I think just in Virginia in general can be very unpredictable.
Yeah, we can have, down in Hampton Roads, we can have all 4 seasons in a day. It's true story.
I believe it. Yeah, no, I believe it. I mean, look, like I said, 3 hours ago, it was like practically 70. I mean, let's just call probably 68, 69, but we'll just call it practically 70. And yeah. I just told my wife I had to run into the bedroom, grab long pants because I had shorts on. I had to put a hoodie on because I was like freezing like crazy.
That's wild.
Oh my God. So all of this to say, you're down in Key West. Now, what is all this about? Because I see on your Instagram, you're traveling all around. What do you got going on?
Wow. Okay. So, I like to say it's not a midlife crisis because I'm only 35.
Okay.
But, so my husband is in the military. He's in the Navy.
Yes.
And we just got back from 5 years in Okinawa.
Yeah.
Where we traveled around Asia and we went to places that I went to Vietnam and we went to China, we went to the Philippines, to these countries that I for sure never thought I would go to. Like, I thought if I left America, it would be to go to Ireland and see where my family's from and, go to the Jameson's distillery or whatever. But yeah, you go to these places and we had done a couple cross-country trips when we were living in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
And so for my birthday this year, I kind of have always wanted, when he retires, to hop in an RV and drive around. And I kind of feel like it's maybe his nightmare to live in an RV for a year with no sense of direction or purpose.
Right.
So he left Okinawa this summer and went to Belgium. He's in Belgium for a year. So I have about 9 more months being by myself. We bought a house this summer. And we've spent most of our marriage apart with his job.
Yep.
But having the new house and normally there's a whole command of spouses whose husbands are also deployed. I mean, you have that support system, and this time I really don't. I'm in this brand new big house compared to our tiny little concrete double wide in Okinawa. Like the housing is so small, so you can fit people in.
Right.
It was overwhelmingly lonely. Um, and I have been clean for 10 years,
That's
sober for
awesome.
4.5. And I felt those feelings creeping in, kind of being back in my college stomping grounds and
Sure.
all the bars we used to go to. And I thought, nah, for my mental health, like, I'm just going to go. So I do this online workout through street parking. So people are all over the United States. Well, they're all over the world. And I just figured they do meetups. So it was like, okay, well, I'll go to, you know what, I'm going to drive to Omaha and go meet up. And I know some of those girls from Instagram, and oh, they're doing one in Sarasota. Cool. I will go to Sarasota and meet some of the girls I know there. And then I'll do some camping. Yeah. So I want to drive to all of the continental United States this year before my husband gets home. And then we're going to do cross Canada to Alaska this summer when he gets back.
That just, I mean, everything you just said in the last like 3 to 5 minutes has just blown my mind. Like, you would not believe, like, seriously, because I have always wanted to do all this traveling. Now, my wife, you know, she likes to travel, but the whole idea of like being in the car and driving is really not her forte. And for me, like, put me on an open road and I'll drive that some bitch 12, 14 hours. I want to see this country. You know what I mean? So everything you just said is amazing. I just have to say that right out of the gate. But I think that's so cool that you're gonna travel the whole country here before the end of the year. That's insane.
It'll be fun, I hope. So I've only been doing it for 2 weeks. And the house we bought is right across from my grandma, and my dogs are with my grandma right now. And she said, well, how long are you planning on being gone? I don't know. Like, I might get out there and 4 days later decide I'm done and it's not the life for me and I'm back home. Or it might be like I'll be home before Jean gets home for Christmas. And it's really been amazing. I'm doing it. I think the most common questions I get are like, you're doing it by yourself? Yeah, but that doesn't seem weird to me because I've lived the last 10 years of our marriage mostly by myself.
Right.
And then I kind of convinced my husband it was a good idea because I was like, I'll sleep in the car. Like, I won't even get a hotel. So I've been sleeping at different like truck stops just when I feel tired, I pull over. And I really have not felt unsafe. I really have not felt weird about it or anything. And it's been like such a liberating, you want to pull over and see this, attraction? Awesome. Pull over and see it. Like, you have nowhere to be. So it's been really cool.
No, that's fantastic. Now, whereabouts do you think you'll be on Christmas? Because I'm pulling the curtain back for the podcast listeners. This podcast is actually going to come out on Christmas. So where do you think you might be on Christmas Day?
So on Christmas Day, I will be at home with my husband.
There you go. Okay.
He'll be home he gets to come home for about 8 days. For like, he's in school over there, so they get like a little bit of a winter break. So he's going to be home for about 8 days. I tried to convince him to come down to Key West for Christmas. And in true Gene, I love him to death. In true Gene fashion, he said, oh, is there a Navy Lodge there? And I was like, no, I mean like this campsite. Let's do it. So we will be in Virginia. I hope it's not too cold, but so that's where we'll be. I might convince him to camp at like a local state park. There's so many state parks in Virginia that are pretty close to us. So I might convince him to give it a whirl. But we'll probably be at home. So it'll be his first Christmas in America in 6 years.
Wow.
But I had come home to visit for Christmas last year. So it won't be my first one, but it'll be his first U.S. Christmas in 6 years.
That's insane. Now, when you met him, was he already in the Navy?
He was.
Okay.
And so I grew up in Hampton Roads is very, very heavy military.
Yes.
And so just out of coincidence, or bad luck, that's who I dated, was a lot of sailors. And um you date some good guys, you date some horrible guys, you date some guys who are like, yeah, I didn't tell you about my wife and kids back in Wisconsin. And like,
Yeah.
no, like I for sure would have remembered that one and got the hell out of Dodge when you told me. And so probably 3 days before I met Gene, I wasn't really dating a guy, but we were kind of on and off, hanging out.
Yep.
I was like, he was into drugs, was going to get out of the Navy. And I was like, no, like I can save this guy. I can clean him up. And I think most females go through that experience at some point in their life, wanting to be the savior. And I was like, that's it. I'm done with military guys. I'm never going to date another military guy ever again. And I was working at a restaurant in downtown Norfolk, and he came in, and I talked across him all night to a different guy that I was trying to get to ask me out.
Right.
And like I sat him in front of a coffee pot at the bar. I mean, it was just awful. He came back 2 nights later, and it was like, oh, you're in the Navy, blah, like gag me. Ugh. And we were sitting there drinking with some other people at the bar, and it was like a fancy restaurant. Like it wasn't like some sleazy bar, but I got off work and we were sitting there drinking, and I accidentally started a bar fight with one of the other gentlemen, and Gene saved me from it. He just arms out, spread them and blocked this guy, and it was like, oh my goodness, what? And we started dating. And so we've been married for 10 years, all because of the bar fight.
That's a great way to get together right there. A good old fashioned bar fight.
Yeah. And now you know a little bit about why I've been sober for 4.5 years.
No, I get it. I've actually been sober now for I'm coming up on my first year. I took my last drink on New Year's Eve of 2018, and
Nice.
I have not looked back yet. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah. And I was also going to say, I do have some ties to the Navy myself. My biological father was actually in the Navy. He's retired now, but he was stationed out at San Diego. And so for many portions of my life, we were traveling between Virginia and San Diego. So we'd come back to Virginia when he'd go for like an extended, kind of like leave or whatever, I think they call it like Westpac or something. He'd go out there for months and months and months. And then when he'd come back for a stable amount of time, we'd be out in San Diego, and then he'd still go out, but it wouldn't be quite as long, and all this and that. And he definitely was one of those kind of guys that was meeting, some other ladies, let's just say. And, holidays were with strangers and not your family. And that's a whole other story for a different podcast. But yeah. I definitely know about that Navy life at least a little bit.
Yeah.
and you mentioned Okinawa. That's actually the time when you and I first connected on Instagram. One of the things I normally ask my guests is like, hey, do you remember when we first connected? And I decided that, you know what, I'm gonna actually look it up myself. And so I went back.
Was it? I bet it was like 3 years. I bet it's been like 3 years.
Well, almost. It was December the 5th. 2017. So we're actually coming up on 2, but that's still a long freaking time.
A long time, yeah.
Yeah, and you were this post was like a before and what I like to call during. I don't really like to use the phrase after, but you were writing about how it was bitter cold in Okinawa, and you said you were talking an Arctic tundra. So you broke out your winter jacket and you were like swimming 78. In it. So that was the first photo where we had our very first interaction. I'm going to start doing this more often now when I bring people on, because I normally ask and the guest is like, well, maybe it was this, maybe it was that. I'm going to go and find the very first. So that was the first for us.
That's wild. Yeah.
And how did you get started as far as like sharing about your journey? And we'll go back further. We'll talk about the journey and all that because that's really important. But since we're already on the Instagram thing, how long had you been sharing prior to that, like your journey and stuff?
Gosh. Okay. So what's funny is, so I'm 35, and when I was in high school, like, only the drug dealers had pagers, and, like, you don't need a cell phone. So I had like old school flip phones forever, until 2012. Gene was deploying to Afghanistan.
Hmm.
And so we got iPhones so that if he was ever in an area where he could connect to Wi-Fi, we could communicate.
Yeah.
And so I got like Instagram. I was like, finally, I can be a cool kid. And like filter the hell out of all of my pictures. Um, in 2012. And I set up like a health and fitness specific. um I don't mean this is a very public stance that I have. I don't want to be mean to anybody, and I
Okay.
know that it's not um like I know that it's not. Edit it out if you don't want it.
Oh no, you're
But
fine.
I had been roped into Beachbody by this woman who was like, "You have to share your workouts, and you have to share every day when you have your Shakeology, and don't tell people that you're selling it, but show them that you're using it, and people will ask what you're doing." And I thought, oh, like, okay. So that's what I started doing, was just like every day, here's me with my Shakeology and doing these workouts and not losing any weight at all.
Right, right.
And I was like, wow, like this just isn't working for me. And I had maybe like, like 50 to 100 followers who were all girls, well, young women. And we were all just struggling. And it was that like, man, nothing's working. And for years and years and years, it was like, do I even post on this account? Like, here I am trying to lose weight and nothing's happening. So I quit Beachbody, tried like a million other things, got roped back into Beachbody years later. And it was just, it was almost like it started as a marketing gimmick
Yep.
to pull people in. Um, but it wasn't that like dazzle them. Like I felt like such a failure because I wasn't like dazzling the people with my 30-day results.
Yeah.
Um, and when what's funny is in Okinawa, I went to Vietnam. I had the opportunity to go to Vietnam on a buy trip to shop for one of the gift shops on base. Um, and I got so sick. And every single food item that I ate, I was like, if this is the meal that makes me sick, it was worth it. The food was amazing, but I came back and I was very, very sick. With a like a gut. You can't drink the water in Vietnam, so you can't eat the fresh vegetables because they were rinsed in the water. And
Right.
so my doctor said, yeah, like, please stop drinking these shakes until your gut really heals. And I noticed so many changes, and it was almost like, wow, like there has to be an ingredient in this that my body is negatively reacting to. And it was when I finally looked into that I said, there's not going to be any more gimmicks. I'm not ever going to try to sell another weight loss thing. I'm never going to try a sample of your detox tea. Like I'm just never going to support that. And because of my experience, I'm also going to speak out and be very vocal about, what are you putting into your mouth? What are you doing to treat your body well? What are
Yes.
you doing to love yourself? Because my experience with Beachbody was, every negative thing that you could hate about yourself, we're going to point out so that you can like hate yourself healthy. And I know that's not everybody's experience, but that was mine. And it was like, no, if I have this platform, I have to turn it into, do you love yourself enough to treat yourself the way you would treat your best friend,
Yes.
like, so it really started as this, like, I'm gonna make millions. So, like, no, like, I just want people to love themselves completely.
Yes, yes, that's how I got. I when I came onto your page, I was seeing some of these messages, and I definitely liked the message. I do remember that as part of the reason why, I get connected with you in the first place. But I think that's a big problem with the gram. We'll use that phrase, the gram, these
Yeah,
days, and even back then in 2017 was, and I feel like it was even worse back then. Maybe I feel like the people's BS detectors are getting a little bit better, but there's just a lot of people out there that are just hucking their stuff out there, trying to get it, making people empty promises that they have no chance of fulfilling because, the moment you say, well, this detox tea or this wrap or these pills are going to instantly make an impact and you're going to see this rapid weight loss within a couple of weeks. I mean, it's all BS. I mean, we know
for
that.
sure. Yeah.
So, but there's just a lot of people out there that are selling it. You have, the different people that are like, making their little shakes and their little teas and they're dancing in their stories and making it look really cool. And then you're, not you, but the average person, you is like looking like, oh, what is that? I gotta check that out. I want to dance in my story and pour my little shake and all the, and it's a hope of if I share it in my story, maybe the company will give me a promo code, and if they give me a promo code, I can share it to other people. And if I can share it with other people, I can make a buck. And at the end of the day, we're all just trying to make money on this damn thing. I feel like is where this is going,
Yeah.
so much so that it's actually turned me into a horrible salesman because I actually run a clothing line and I'm so deathly afraid to like actively promote it because I don't want to turn people off, Elizabeth. This is crazy.
Stop hawking your t-shirts, Gary.
But it's the same thing like you were mentioning earlier. Like I would just wear them in pictures and hope that people would ask because I too know what it's like to be sold to and how much I don't like it. And so as a result, I've become like the worst salesman possible. Like I would be fired from
Yeah.
any sales job.
It does it to you. And I am to the point now where I'll be like, here I am with this product. It's not an ad. This isn't a sponsored post. I just really like it.
Yeah.
Like, you just have that fear. Like they're not paying me. I paid for this product myself. It's gotten to that point where it's just so out of control.
Yeah, you have to clarify. Otherwise, people think that you're in bed with these companies and you're trying to sell them on something. Because there are people now that like they'll strike up a DM conversation like they're just the average Joe. They're trying to be your buddy, and then like 3 or 4 DMs in, boom, they hit you right in the gut with the sales pitch.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what it is that really pisses me off about it is you found me by a hashtag that had to do with something health and fitness.
Yes.
And you're preying on what you think is a very vulnerable individual.
Yes.
And you knocked on the wrong mother heckin' door. and like I just stopped ignoring that. Like even last night I got this message from a girl that was
do
like,
tell.
hey, you seem super sweet, so I thought I could send you this message. And not to quote it, but it was essentially like, I would love to have you be a product tester and offer you my discount. So it was like, okay, no mention of what it is that you're selling.
Yes.
Your profile is private, so I can't even see, like, are you drinking teas in your pictures? Are you like wrapping yourself in cellophane? Like what? Like I can't even see what it is that you are doing. And like I don't know why you thought I was sweet because I'm fucking not. Like like I'll put somebody in their place, and that's exactly what I wrote back. I was like, you're peddling something, but you're private, so I can't even see what you're peddling. If you're offering me to be a product tester, but I have to buy it, but I get your discount, that means whatever pyramid scheme you're wrapped up in, you want me to join.
Yes.
For the like distributor discount. And I don't know what on my profile, like, I feel like my profile is really like, I don't give a about what anybody thinks about me or has to say. Like, this is just the way that it is. I swear you hit 30 and you're just like, done. It is
Yes.
what it is. You get it, you know? So it's like, I don't know. Like, I'm pretty sure my profile gives off a vibe of like, oh, she'll cut a bitch. Like, you know, I mean, you know, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know anybody that'd be like, Elizabeth was super slow. Elizabeth's been sleeping in truck stops, sweetie, with mace in her pocket. Like, I'm not sweet. And she wrote back like, I'm so sorry if I bothered you. Like, take a hint, just take a hint. Don't and you almost want to say don't blind message people, but
Yeah.
also like don't waste my time with 5 messages and chatting back and forth for you to be like, have you heard of whatever magic thing you're trying to sell me?
Or, you know, and I don't like the salespeople, and I understand how they might say, you know, I need to make a buck. So let's just say, okay, fine, you need to make a buck. At least do the research on the person that you're messaging before you message them. Now, will this take a bunch of extra time and probably not be effective for you and your time management? Probably, but at least you'll save yourself a lot. You'll probably save yourself a lot of FUs at the end of the day and a lot of angry people. That's just a hunch. So,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, they're out there, they're blood sucking sharks, and they're going to try to get theirs. I actually had a company that asked me if I wanted to be a brand ambassador, and I will not drop their name, but they're like, we offer like fitness trackers and Bluetooth headphones. Now, as I mentioned, I work with apparel. And so one of the things I know when it comes to apparel is where to source your materials from. So with that being said, when I went onto their website to look at their thing of all their products, it's basically products that are sourced from a website called AliExpress, which ships in bulk from China. And you can basically stamp your logo on this product that comes brandless. Yeah. So Bluetooth headphones, fitness trackers, water bottles, and they're asking me to huck that to people. And that's just not happening. Now, I'm the kind of guy, I like my Power Beats Pro. It's more of a fancier, you know, brand. But like, if I haven't heard of your brand, like there's no way in hell I'm going to rep it. Like, I don't even want to try it. Like, just save me the time, save yourself the time and the shipping. It's not happening, bro or girl or whatever. It's not happening. Like, I don't want to sell your little $20 Bluetooth headset that somebody's going to pay you $60 for, and the damn thing is going to break like the third day in. I'm not doing that.
Right.
We're not doing that.
And I think too, and I think it's very easy to pick up if people did very minimal research. And I feel like you are this way as well.
Yes.
My followers on Instagram is not just a number and these random people. Like, I invest in my social media. These are friendships that I'm building.
Yes.
These are literally people who have been like, are you in my town? Stop by, grab a shower. Literally a stranger from Instagram let me do a load of laundry at her house and shower at her house. And like, these aren't just a number in an algorithm for me. Like, these are people who I would, ride or die with. Like, these are people who I'm investing in making a relationship with. And so it's not just like, oh yes, what can I get from them? Of course I will hawk this crap for you, like these are real relationships. And so if I'm not gonna, like, you wouldn't just walk up, oh, Super Bowl party, hey guys, have you heard about this new, like, you would never do that in real life.
There's no way.
So that's the part that really is like, you can see when people are invested on a very personal level.
Yes.
Instead of using their Instagram to market themselves. And that's what aggravates me almost the most, is because I am super lazy. Like, I am not going to like put the effort into marketing myself.
Yeah, it's too much work.
Take it or leave it.
I would say that I spent a little bit of time at a point where I was marketing myself, and I've drawn that back
Yeah.
significantly. Believe me. I mean, when you kind of get on there at first, it's all new and exciting, and you're trying to figure out
Oh, yeah,
ways.
and you
But
follow for follow, and
oh yeah, I mean, that's the truth. But I will say what you said is exactly correct. I'm definitely the same way. Me and a bunch of people met up back in May at the Flying Pig in Cincinnati, Ohio. It's a race weekend. They have 5Ks, they have 10Ks. Now I will say, full disclosure, part of this is a plug because we're actually going to do a big meetup in 2020. There's gonna be a bunch of us
what?
Instagrammers. Yeah, I'm formally inviting you right here, right now, Elizabeth.
I'll put it on my map.
Please do. Cincinnati, Ohio, May 1st through the 3rd.
Done.
We're having a gigantic Instagram meetup. We went there. My wife and I went there. We flew out there earlier this year, met up with a ton of great people. People from all over the country showed up. We met up. It was exciting. And we went and I did the 10K. Some people did the 5. And this coming year, I'm going to do the 5 and the 10, probably because I'm a lunatic. And
yeah, for sure.
exactly. Yes. And
I was like, do they have a children's fun run I can do?
they do. In fact, they do. And what I will say, this is the small plug part of it. When they found out that we had this big meetup, I reached out to them and became a brand ambassador. Now, I don't make any money here, so there's no money exchange whatsoever. I'll put my hand on a Bible, whatever anybody needs. I do not make a dime off this, but I will share it, and I will partner up with them because it's all about community. And this event brings the community together, brings the city of Cincinnati together. It brings a bunch of us Instagrammers together. And so they gave me a code, and I know you're familiar with discount codes on Instagram, Elizabeth. So,
oh God, yes.
Gary 10 takes 10% off your registration. And so I'm inviting you. I'm inviting anybody that's listening here. Come out and meet us in Cincinnati for the Flying Pig. It's going to be a lot of fun. May 1st through the 3rd. You can go to flyingpigmarathon.com. We're all going to have one hell of a time. That I can promise you.
Is there going to be, now I'm sure you know, I was recently in Ohio.
Yes.
Is there going to be Cincinnati chili at this event?
100%. Skyline chili is my jam. I ate there once and I was like hooked for life. Let me tell you.
I literally drove from West Virginia to Omaha through Ohio so I could stop at Skyline chili.
They actually had a Skyline about 3 or 4 blocks away from the Expo Center, which is where they had like the packet pickup and all that stuff.
Yes,
but you know what? You know what I loved about this is that, I'd never been to Cincinnati a day in my life prior to flying over there. And this race, the city really gets behind this particular event because there's strangers that are lined up at pretty much every point of this race. Now I did the 10K, which is 6.2 miles. It goes from Cincinnati into Kentucky, back into Cincinnati. So you're actually going across 2 states here. And there are people just lined up along the streets for the entire route, just complete strangers. They don't know me from a hole in the wall. And they're cheering me on. They're giving me water and Gatorade and all kinds of stuff. And it's just, it's a fantastic community-based event. And that's what I've been about, Elizabeth, with Instagram, is community and bringing people together, because you may not believe this, but I am introverted as fuck. Okay. I said it.
Oh my God. Me too.
Yes.
Me too. I said that to somebody this weekend. I hate that I will cut you off in a heartbeat.
No, you're fine.
I get so excited. But I said that to somebody this weekend. So I was at a meetup and we were all doing a workout. And I rode with the lady who let me stay with her overnight. And what's funny is she was like, wow, like a celebrity. And at one of the meetups, they were like, it's so cool that we have like a famous celebrity here. And I was like, oh my God, who's coming? and she's like, you. and I'm like so shy and introverted that I'm like, no, like I don't have that kind of like clout or status or whatever. But I get such anxiety that I literally am like, oh my God. We literally drove up to Pennsylvania. We spent the weekend in a B&B, my husband and I, when he was home this summer, to go to a meetup. And that morning I was like, I can't do it. I can't go and meet these strangers. And so we didn't go. We drove all the way up there and stayed in a B&B and
Oh
then
my
didn't go.
God.
And it's like, just that like, I would rather not talk to people. Like, I really have to push myself out of my comfort zone. And when you're so open and or vulnerable on social media, people are like, wow, you're so outgoing. And it's like, my hobbies include napping and staying in my house with my dog. Like, I'm on the road by myself, and it's a dream come true.
Yeah, no, I
But yeah,
get it.
that introversion is very hard. I don't know if that's a word, but that introverted personality is very hard when you're building community,
Mhm.
and so important to like overcome.
That's why I do this podcast. I
Yeah.
once said it. I'm an introvert who interviews strangers on the internet. That's what's going on right now.
But you know what? So here's the truth. You're
Yes.
in your house in Northern Virginia. I am in my car and there's no face-to-face interaction. We are being very introverted.
Yes. No, you're absolutely right. Now, in the future, we will change it. I truly believe after this conversation, at one point we will meet. But until that time comes, you're absolutely right. You are in a car in Key West. I'm in my office in Northern Virginia. This is
Yeah,
introverted as it comes right here.
right.
But you know what? Because just like you said, like there's this anxiety. When I went to Cincinnati for the first time, now I had my camera out. It's on my YouTube. Anybody can go check it out. I did a vlog for the 2 days I was there, but I was genuinely nervous. Like when I knew we were getting ready to go to the expo center to meet up with other people who were doing their packet pickup, I was so nervous. And once I seen people, it kind of slowly faded away, and it was just cool to see everybody. But like leading up to that point, I was just a wreck.
Yeah.
Ugh. And it's the same thing. Like I don't look at myself as anything special whatsoever. There are people that listen to this show that if you ask them they would tell you otherwise, and I am aware of that. I'm self-aware of what people perceive when they think of me, and they think of, he's inspirational, he really inspires me to do X, Y, and Z. I'm very aware of that, but at the same time, to myself, I'm like, I ain't shit. Like I'm just the average guy who went through an experience, and I'm here to share my experience in hopes that it may help others and give them a
Yes.
different way to look at things. I mean, that's basically what it is. Let's call it what it is. That's what I look at it. But then there are people who will say, oh my God, he's so inspirational. He does a podcast. He's so famous. I don't look at it that way in any way, shape, or form.
I like to tell my husband that I'm like a Z-list celebrity, like within a very small pool of people.
Right. Well, what does he think about all that? Because you do have a following on Instagram. People would look at that. They'd go to Cheers to My Health and they would say, wow, okay,
Hmm.
she has a nice following. How does he look at that? And what is his thoughts on it?
He's really funny about it. So when we got married, he immediately left on the ship,
Yeah.
and I was gonna join him. The ship was moving from Virginia to San Diego. I was gonna go with him. I wasn't gonna go with him. The Navy wasn't gonna move us because we weren't gonna be there long enough. I decided I was gonna move out. I quit work, and so I thought, well, I'm gonna start a blog about this absolutely you know one of the few people you would ever know living this amazing military spouse life,
Yeah.
Um, so I started a blog, and he was so funny. And I wish that I remembered what he made me call him. Like I couldn't use his name. I had to use like a code, and he's like not even that important. Like not in a bad way, but like like he's not like a special forces or anything. But he
Right.
was like, don't refer to me by name, and don't use my picture. Da 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 da. And um, then I guess he just like I wore him down, like most good wives do.
Yeah.
Uh, and it was like, okay, I'm gonna take a picture of you until it's a good smile, and um it's funny, and I think it's funny for both of us because I never in a million years thought that I would have like more than 100 people that I was connected with on Instagram.
Right.
And even that would have been like when I hit 100 people, it was like, oh my goodness, there's 100 people who are having this shared experience with me, and we're supporting each other. And then like every milestone, whatever your milestones are, you hit them, and it's like, wow, what? And so like it still is kind of surreal to me that many people are interested in my life. And I try to go through and like delete spam bots and people who it's like, okay, I'm not going to marry you or send you millions of dollars that I for sure don't have. Like I try to get rid of those accounts.
Right.
Because I'm not about the numbers, and so I don't care. If you're a fake follower, like I just get rid of, like, I don't have time for you. It's so surreal to me. And Gene knows about my social media. He's been on my Instagram before. He like begrudgingly like, get that camera out of my face. But I the like, not the hill that I will die on, but the platform that I really take in all aspects of our life, with the difficulties we faced in our marriage, with my mental health, with my sobriety, everything. If I can be vulnerable for 30 seconds and share a caption, if it helps one person feel like they are not alone, it was a good day.
Oh yeah.
And there are so many things in the military world where you're not allowed to talk, like, you're not allowed to talk about being sad or depressed. You're not allowed to talk about this irrational fear that you have because you live by yourself. You're not allowed to talk about any kind of marital problems that you're having because, you're June Cleaver and this is the happiest little household on the block. And, so the minute I became vulnerable and shared about some marriage issues, all of these women came out of the woodwork saying, I feel like I can't talk to anybody, and sharing stories with each other and finding that support network. And the same with mental health. I shared about going in and finally breaking down and saying to my doctor, like, in Okinawa, it was a very serious situation because you have to be medically cleared to live there with your spouse.
Right.
So there's a medical screening that you undergo to make sure that they have the medical care to provide for you. And I finally went to my doctor and was like, in tears, please don't kick me off the island. But I'm just feeling really depressed and I'm feeling sad. And if there's just something I could take to get me through a little longer. And to share that and have people say, I feel that same way, I'm going to go and talk to my doctor, or I'm going to get into counseling too. And I think he sees it as like, oh, she's not trying to get rich quick. She's not trying to be like the next social media. Like, I don't want an television show because I post funny pictures on, like, I'm not trying to be a celebrity. Like, I'm trying to be as authentic as possible.
Yes.
And I think he thinks it's weird, like, cause he's just a much more private person. Like, he's got the Instagram with like, he follows like his favorite bands and stuff, but he never posts anything, so I think sometimes he's like, why are you sharing that? But to realize like, oh, it's a good intention sharing. And I know it annoys him sometimes, and God bless the man. He puts up with it.
Yeah, well, that's great. It's good to have support from the spouse. My wife, I think sometimes she'd be like, get off that damn phone, get off the Instagram. But I think she gets it at the same time, and she's kind of like, okay, like, I know what you're doing here. There's a greater purpose here. You're not just on there to fuck around. Like, you're on there, you're trying to help people. So there is a purpose.
Yeah. It's funny. I think she and June would be like the best of friends. They could be their own, like, do you know what I deal with?
Exactly. So, you know what? If we can make this flying pig thing happen, we can also compare notes.
Yeah. Well, he'll still be in Belgium, so
Oh,
I'll still
okay.
be on my great American road trip.
There you go. There you go. Well, yeah, you gotta drive that sumbitch right through Cincinnati. We're gonna have a
Yep.
party, me, you, and like probably 50 other people that are meeting up. It's gonna be fun, and that's the great thing about the community. Everybody can come together, and we all have this common kind of goal of the weight loss and getting healthy, feeling better. And so, what better transition at 45 freaking minutes into this call? Would you believe it? These things are normally an hour and
You were like,
45 minutes.
you were like, I normally record for 50 minutes. I'm like, until you call me, Gary.
No, this is great. And so, we are all together by this common goal. And so a great transition now would be to
Yeah.
kind of go into your backstory and talk about how you even needed weight loss to be on your radar. So take me as far as we need to go. I'd love to hear kind of your story about, growing up and how weight plays into that as we go along here.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so 35 years and 2 months ago, um, I was a big baby. I was like 9.5 pounds. Like I was a
Bullshit. I
big
was 9.5 pounds. Get out.
like I was a big baby. And my grandma tells this story about when they were leaving the hospital with me.
Yeah.
Somebody thought I was there for my 3 month checkup. And my grandma got so mad. She was like, she was just born. But and so literally my entire life I have been big. And when you're little and you're kind of chubby, like it's cute, and all the old ladies like pinch your cheeks, and like they just think you're the cutest little with like your baby fat. My mom was overweight. Everybody in my family was overweight, and so it's that nurture versus nature kind of, I guess, thing where you're like the people that you see around you
Yeah.
are overweight. But my childhood was very, very unstable. My mom and dad got divorced when I was 3. Um, and so we moved with my stepdad up to Connecticut. It was a very abusive household. It was a very, um, not that we were, and I guess maybe looking back, like, I don't want to be like, we were poor, because like my mom was an LPN. Like my mom was working a steady job as a nurse and making money doing night shift. And my stepdad worked at like a boat dealership type thing. And so we were always moving, and looking back, it was like, no, like we weren't always moving. Like we were constantly being evicted from places because you were spending money, like my mom and my stepdad were spending money on alcohol and cigarettes instead of like the bills and putting food on the table. And
These are important
um
things.
yeah, and so to kind of grow up in, it was by no means like an impoverished childhood. We weren't living in like low income housing or anything like that. We weren't on, government assistance ever. um but it was this childhood where, like, God, I will never eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich ever again in my life.
Yeah.
And I remember like being in kindergarten getting beat because my mom made like mashed potatoes and just like sauteed green peppers, and I was like, that's disgusting. I'm not going to eat that.
Yeah.
And I got beat for not eating the food,
Mm.
sent to bed. And the next morning, that food was on the kitchen table for my breakfast.
Oh boy.
So, so from the time you're a very small child, food had these consequences associated with it. And you ate what was put in front of you, whether you wanted it or not, whether you liked it or not, and you cleared your plate.
Yes.
Um, and that really bred such a negative relationship with food.
Oh yeah.
Um, and so then just living in a very abusive household, I did everything that I could to get away from that, to run away from that. And when I was 14, I ended up, we had moved back to Virginia, and I ended up getting kicked out of the house. Um, so my mom and my stepdad didn't want me. My dad and my stepmom didn't want me. So that's when my grandma took me in. And we had spent most of the summers with my grandma anyway, my grandma and my grandpa, until he passed away. They had practically raised my older brother. So both my parents were just like, here, take her, signed me over. Here's the child support. It's all you. And so I think most kids have the experience when you go to grandma's house, if you want it, you can have it.
Oh yeah.
So then it became this kind of going, not really from a food desert, but going from where like food was scarce, and when you had food you had to eat it no matter what, to like, oh, you mean we can get the box of Little Debbie's? Like, so all of a sudden it was, puberty's hitting and I'm in high school. Um and now I can have the snacks if I want. I can have the treats if I want. And no matter what, my grandma always told me how beautiful I was. And I tell people I have such an exaggerated sense of self confidence, and I really always have, because my grandma constantly had that positive validation
Yes.
towards me. And so then you kind of go to that. But I went to a very small private school, and I was the only big girl there, and kids are mean. So
Yes, they
then it
are.
went, to, well, I'm not going to eat lunch. And my grandma was I remember probably going to my first Weight Watchers meeting when I was in high school. My grandma took me to Weight Watchers because I didn't want other kids picking on me. So I would have a Slim Fast for breakfast on the way to school, and I would skip lunch. And um, through very, I'm not going to say through an eating disorder at all, but through very disordered eating,
Yes.
um, I was very conscious of my weight, and I was still wearing, size 20, size 22, shopping at plus size stores, as a kid in high school. But I played softball, I played volleyball. Like I did these sports where bigger girls are a blessing for those sports. Um, but it was just kind of like, I'm not like the other girls. Um, and I went to college, and so I graduated in '03. And for people like around my age, I think everybody was ADD,
I
ADHD,
was.
like around 2000, like that, like that's just how they diagnosed kids.
Class of
And
2000 right here.
yeah, and so I was on Adderall from the time, it was like, wow, I can't focus in school, and there really were all of these problems going on, and so it was like, yep, put her on Adderall. So by the time I got to college, I was living on cigarettes, Adderall, Code Red Mountain Dew, and maybe like Thursday night dinners at the campus ministry house.
Wow.
But I mean, like it was, and when I talk about like addiction, I think my grandma gets a little like upset about it, but like that was really for me, like, wow, like, yeah, I got through college on caffeine and Adderall and nicotine. Like that was what I was putting into my body consistently, zero nutrition.
Yeah.
Um and so I was probably this like the skinniest I've ever been, at like a size 18, but um and I look at pictures of myself from college, and I was like, if I could only be as fat as I thought I was then. But it was
Yeah.
still just this very disordered, still going to Weight Watchers with my grandma, where I would be like, okay, well, this Code Red Mountain Dew is 10 points, but I have 23 points for the day, so I can have two Code Red Mountain Dews and and like some pickles and a Slim Fast. I mean, so like it was still very, for me, disordered. Um and then I got married, and I was a bigger girl when my husband met me.
Yeah.
So it's not like I got married and let myself go, but before we moved to Okinawa, I kind of let myself go. We did a road trip, and it was kind of that, like, anxiety, like, "Oh my god, we're never gonna eat American food ever again," for 3-year orders to Okinawa, you know? So we drove cross country, and I ate everything like I was never going to get it. Like, I will never get to have barbecue ever again in this is the last banana pudding I will ever be able to have. And I ate my way across America, and in 3 weeks, I gained 30 pounds.
Wow.
And that was the first time, like, I put on so much weight so quickly. It was the first time that I was like, wow, I'm really uncomfortable right now. And none of the clothes that I packed for myself are fitting me. Um,
And I'm sorry, what does that do for your mental health? I mean, where are you at this point mentally?
oh man, so there's all these things going on. There's this fear of moving out of the country,
Yes.
and the job that my husband was getting ready to take was a little bit scary. Um,
Like a risk, like there's a risk, that kind of scary, or
yeah, so he went, when I met my husband, he told me he was non-deployable. Um, and yet the man has probably not been home for half of our marriage. Like,
yeah, yeah.
and so, but he went from being with the Navy to, if you are Navy medical, the Marine Corps relies on the Navy's medical staff. Um, so, so he was going to be with a Marine unit and working with our allied countries and traveling all the time. And your Asian countries are not very stable. Like, the Philippines, sometimes they want American assistance, but then sometimes the president gets upset at Americans and doesn't want anything to do with the Americans coming and helping. And
Yeah.
there's kind of this underlying turmoil in Okinawa, that it was kind of like, oh my God, like, so we're going overseas and I'm never going to have American food again. And also, I'm putting on all this weight. So as soon as we get back home, I have to like double down on the Shakeology and have 2 shakes a day.
Yeah.
um and like all these crazy, crazy, crazy things. And at that point in time, my husband had been in Afghanistan for 9 months, and I had lost some weight, and I had done paleo and Pilates. And we actually went to a huge paleo conference during that trip. And it was like, wow, like, I am the fattest person here. You would never know that I have been eating paleo for a year, and
Right.
um for my mental health, it was still it was this fear, but it was still kind of like, no, I'm okay. You know that meme where it's like the dog and he's in like the burning house, and he's like, no, it's fine, everything's fine.
Oh yeah.
That was my life, where it was like, for years I didn't know how bad it was until I knew how bad it was. And that didn't happen until we were in Okinawa, and I was experiencing pain in my abdomen. Um, and the worst part about being on a weight loss journey is when, like, I would go for a walk with my girlfriends in the evenings, but going for a walk with my girlfriends made this pain flare up. And so, how am I supposed to lose weight if the thing that I'm doing to lose weight is causing me pain?
Right.
Um, and I remember saying to my grandma, FaceTiming my grandma, like, she's my best friend. I FaceTime her every day. Um, and I looked in the mirror and I said, "Ma'am, you have to look at this." And I flipped around the camera so that she could see me. And I stood sideways and I said to her, "I have to be one of those women who's pregnant and doesn't know it."
Mm.
Because it was like, and it had been probably, well, this was in 2015. So it had been like a year into being in Okinawa, and really like a year from that trip where I had just started to gain weight, and I was in this new country and I wasn't making friends very easily because we were with a bunch of Marine families, and there's all this animosity between the branches. And
Yeah.
we don't have kids, so I had no reason to hang out on the playground and meet other moms. And um, it was almost like I woke up one day and was 340 pounds. And it was like it happened overnight. Um, and if I had to guess, I for sure didn't weigh myself at my heaviest. The heaviest I ever weighed myself was 328. And I know I gained more than that. But it really was like I woke up one day and I didn't recognize myself in the mirror.
Yeah.
And I went to the doctor, and Navy medicine, if you're not familiar, is such a shit show. So by the time I got into OBGYN, um, the doctor said to me, well, it's probably cancer. You probably need a full
Oh my
hysterectomy.
God.
And we're going to do a biopsy. So I was like, great, we do that here. Like, what do we do? She says, yeah, you have to schedule it. So my biopsy, I could not get in for 3 weeks.
Oh my God.
We left the hospital. One of the only American restaurants on base is a Chili's. We went there. I like ordered myself a double mixed drink, ordered my husband a double mixed drink, and like double fisting drinks at the Chili's. I passed out in the car on the way home. And when I woke up, it was like, one, I can never drink again in my life if that's how I handled this situation, was getting blackout drunk. Um, but also like, wow, I need to take control over my own health. And so that's when I kind of got roped into Beachbody again. I was like, okay, and this time I'm going to be serious about it.
Right.
Um, and I kind of knew from paleo, like my body does very good with a protein and vegetable diet. My body, so I have PCOS. I was diagnosed right before our marriage. And I wish doctors told me then that it's an insulin resistance is a big part of it, and what causes the ovarian cysts. And so, like, even fruit, like, I just do better without fruits in my diet and kind of any source of sugars. Um, so, like, it's super trendy to be gluten free, but like, not because I have a gluten sensitivity, but my body, it's just a straight sugar to my body. And so, from the insulin resistance perspective, like, I knew how I should be eating. Um, but then you're 5 years old again, and it's like, no, you have to eat these containers of food, and you have to eat what these people are telling you to eat if you want the success that they're telling you you can attain.
Right.
Um, and so it was like, wow, like I can't break the rules. And so I struggled and struggled and struggled, and my husband had an affair while we were in Okinawa. Um, and that, when I found out about it, and it was like, okay, like we have to do counseling, and are we going to work through this, or are we like done? What do we even do with our life now? And so we decided, no, like we're going to fight for this. And um I like turned like, okay, like I grew up Catholic, and we didn't get married in the Catholic church. And so then, like, well, I can't be Catholic anymore. But I decided, like, no, I really need God to lean on. And what's so funny is I told people, like, I need Jesus in Whole30. So, like, Whole30 was really getting big.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, I need to take control of my life. And so I made a list of all of the things that I didn't even know were problems for me. Like, we lived in an upstairs unit, and I would get winded walking up the stairs, and
Right.
my bras weren't really fitting right anymore, and they were like pinching me on the sides. And um like, just all of these things. I wasn't really sleeping. I was dealing with this insomnia all of the time. um I was taking like Tums every single day, um because of just like acid reflux and everything. And I wrote all these things out, and it was like, okay, well, let me see if I do this for 30 days, let me see how it makes me feel. And I ended up doing it for about 60 days, and the weight that would never come off started to come off. But all of these other, like, my skin cleared up, and there was all of these other things that had nothing to do with weight, but that had to do with my health.
Right.
That kind of started correcting themselves. And it was like, okay, like I can take back mentally, I can take back the control of not being that little kid that's going to be punished for not eating everything that's not like your fault. You don't finish, put it in a container and eat it later, and really kind of correcting that mental that I'd been carrying around at that point for 32, 33 years. Um, and then I started working with the doctors. It was like, yeah, like my life sucks and I need help to get through the day. But also, I have this very addictive personality and a history of abusing prescription medications. And, so where's the balance with that, for treating somebody, but not giving me something that I could abuse either? And I think it's so important for people to really be honest with their doctors. Uh, my doctor now is a family friend that Gene served with, and God bless him. I'm like, yeah, so like every day I do 3 scoops of my pre-workout, and like one day I'm gonna come in here and my heart's gonna be stopped, but I'm not gonna stop drinking it. But like, I just need you to know
Yeah, you got to be
that
upfront.
this is what I'm doing. But also, I only eat protein and avocados and vegetables. Like, and 3 scoops of C4. But like I try to be very honest and like this is what I'm doing. And I think for a lot of women it's very, very difficult. Um I look in the mirror now and I really am shocked by the person that I see, because almost as quickly as the weight went on overnight, even though it had been years in the making, now I'm kind of looking in the mirror and it's like, oh my God, like, well, that person in the mirror has a neck. Like,
Yeah.
where'd that come from? And, like these pants that used to be tight, like now I have to do like it's almost like I've been working and it's been coming off so slowly that it is aggravating and annoying, and it's very hard to stay consistent when you don't get that like miracle results that society and social media says are available for you.
Oh yeah.
So like if you hit a plateau or if you're only losing 2, 3 pounds a month, like it's hard to maintain that focus of, but I'm still going to keep pushing anyway. Um, and that's been like the last 2 years of my life have just been that very, okay, so like I know this works for me if I eat these foods, and if I'm not looking at food as a punishment and a treat or a reward, that it is really what nutrition makes me feel my best and fuels my body the best. So um kind of that happy like medium of, be real honest, I eat a lot of steak and potatoes.
Yeah.
Like,
Gotta love those
so
steak and
like,
potatoes.
yeah, but it's like, okay, like protein and like don't be afraid of, like, all carbs aren't scary. Um if it works for you, and
Yes.
there's not a prescription, and it's not going vegan, and it's not going paleo, and it's not going keto, and it's not like I only eat olives and cashew, like whatever the trendy thing is, if it works for you, that's awesome.
Yes.
Stick with that no matter what society tells you. And if gluten, let me tell you, I went to this restaurant called Lambert's in Missouri where they throw rolls at you and you catch them, and they were delicious. But that afternoon at like 3 o'clock, I had to pull over at a gas station and I took like a 5 hour nap. And I know that bread will do that to me.
Yes.
If bread doesn't do that to you, eat the fucking rolls. Like,
Yeah. Tear them
and,
up.
and even if bread does do that to you, like, is it a moment where it was an experience and it was like, eat a roll and move on with your life, and don't associate guilt with that, and don't associate all of this like good versus evil. If it works for you, do it. If eating kale and honey is what works for you, do it. and try to find that inner strength. Like mine is like you have to tune out society, and people will judge you. Oh my god, if you eat a salad for breakfast, people are going to judge you and ask you a million questions.
Yes, yes, they will.
But if I ordered 15 waffles, nobody would bat an eye.
Nope.
And so it's that kind of thing where we all have that societal view of like, this is what you should be eating, why aren't you? And people will get very outspoken. Well, because I know that my day is going to be better, and I'm not going to be as grumpy, I'm not going to be as short tempered, I'm going to have more energy. Like, I have really kind of done an experiment with myself and really tracked how it affects my mental health, how it affects me physically. Am I exhausted? Am I breaking out?
Right.
Like, and I know, like, okay, I'm getting a zit, and it is because I ate, nothing but M&Ms last week.
Yeah.
So like you do, so and it's like, okay, like, but I, don't associate the guilt with it. You did it, you move on, whatever. That's the hardest thing to do in 2019, because and I think people will guilt you without you even knowing that you're guilting somebody. I
Yeah.
went on a girls trip, and in Asia, they have salad on every breakfast bar. So I would get like salad and sausage, and I would like pack my own dressing packets that I knew like didn't have added sugar. And every morning it was like, "Are you seriously eating salad again?" And it was like, "Yeah, dude, like, I'm not quizzing you. Like, I'm not interviewing you about your breakfast. Don't interview me about mine. Like,
Yeah.
you're not paying for it. I'm not asking you to feed it to me. Like, if you know something works for you, if it's not like crazy, um, to fight that stigma is hard. And it's the same with working out too. Uh, Pilates isn't going to work for everybody. Cardio is not going to work for everybody. Like if you're doing a kickboxing program or karate, like that's not going to be what everybody responds to.
Yeah. You
So,
got to find what you
like,
love doing and what your body feels good doing and do the shit out of it.
yeah, don't punish yourself.
Yeah.
Don't go and spend hours in the gym doing something you hate because that's what some model on Instagram told you should be doing.
Yeah, because at some point you're
Um,
going to quit. I mean, if you're doing what you hate over and over and over again, at some point emotionally you're going to have a breaking point, and you're just going to want to
oh, for
stop.
sure.
And then where's that going to get you? Nowhere.
Nowhere. Or you reach that point where it's like, well, it's working for everybody else. What am I doing wrong? Why isn't it working for me? Well, that's just
Yeah.
not what your body responds to, and it's kind of like high school athletics. The, you know, quarterback isn't also going to be like the best, I don't know, body types of but like if I'm playing rugby, I'm also probably not at the top of the pyramid with the cheerleading squad. Like,
Yeah.
your body, so like if you react and you love swimming, do it, dude. If you love kickboxing and your body loves it, do it. Um, I really love CrossFit type workouts. I really love um like seeing improvements on how deep my lunges are, how deep my squats are, how much I can lift, which I mean, it's like 30 pounds, but
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good.
but like I enjoy being able to see those. It doesn't have anything to do with what I'm seeing in the mirror, but like, wow, I have to buy some heavier weights because this thing that I really enjoy doing, which I maybe sometimes do have to talk myself into doing at 10 o'clock at night before I go to bed. But um, if you enjoy what you're doing and you can track your progress, if you love running, you're going to be able to track that you're, doing a 5K in quicker time, or your endurance is better, like something that's measurable for you that you enjoy and your body responds positively to, no matter what anybody else says, stick with that.
That's right.
You know,
I love
it's been
that.
very hard the last 2 years. Uh, um, really coming to my own and being like, I don't care what other people say. If this is what works for me, unless you are my doctor, I don't
Yeah.
care what you have to say, you know?
That's fair. Yeah.
And that's now that I have gone on a complete soapbox, that's that's where I that's where I am now is like unless you are specifically my doctor, um don't try to sell me something that you don't know if it is going to interact with medication that I'm on.
Exactly.
Don't tell me that I should be doing this, that, or the other workout when you don't know the injuries that I have sustained in my life. And, there's all these things where it's like you just don't know what somebody is going through with medications or with physical like rehab type things, and like just stop. Unless you're my doctor, just stop. And even if you
Yeah.
are my doctor, you went to medical school, that's fine, but like I've been studying me for 35 years.
Yeah. I know a little bit more than you know there, Doc. How about
I know
that?
a little bit more about me.
Well, I mean,
But
how are we today? I mean, like today you woke up, like where is your mental health overall, your physical health? How do you feel today, right now?
today, well, let's set the scene. I slept in a tent for the very first time last night,
Yes.
out in the open, in a like out where people are walking by and can see me sleeping.
How's that, Miss
Um,
Introvert?
I slept really well. I slept so good. And I didn't think that I would.
Yeah.
I slept really, really good. But so I woke up and I looked out my tent. It was 84 degrees at 6:30 this morning. There was a cool breeze. The water was blue and beautiful. The sky was amazing. The puffiest white clouds I've ever seen.
Mm.
It's hard to have a bad day when you wake up to that.
God, we're really hitting it off here, but I'm really starting to hate you already. I mean, God.
And so, like, if you ask me in like December when I'm in cold Virginia, it might be a little different. But
Yeah.
so for today, I mean, that's part of what this whole like driving around the country in my car is. I am religious, and so there's a religious aspect to it of like spending time with myself and with God, and focusing on how do I, take off the old self and put on this new self, and really focus on my prayer life, and really focus on how I should be living my life as a good Christian, and the temptations that come into. I've been away from my husband for 10 months, and we have 10 months ahead of us, and so there is sexual frustration involved with
Sure.
that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And a phrase used in the military is Jody boy. When all the guys go away, Jody boy comes up and takes care of the wives. And am very proud of myself. In our 10 years of marriage, I have remained very faithful, very steadfast. I avoid any of the kind of situations that put me in a bad place.
Right.
Um, but it's like, God, you have been gone for so long. And then also we're working on our own issues in our marriage. So it's like, wow, like they're like, could I just go to a bar and have a drink and pick some random guy up? Um, and I know that's not who I am, and that's not who I want to be. So this trip has kind of been like, just get away from it and unplug, and do a podcast, but then unplug again,
Yep.
and focus on that. And so I am waking up in the mornings feeling uh, not even being hyperbolic, not even being dramatic, but really like, wow, I wasn't killed last night. And that's a very real um, fear that I face every day is like, I'm sleeping in these random towns, in these random truck stops. Um, and I don't, tomorrow's not promised to me.
Yes, that's very
and
true.
and it's and it's very much I very much believe, and I will not go on like a religious tangent, but I believe that there is a day, and my maker knows that day, and I'm not going to outrun it, and I just have to live my life so that when that day comes, I don't have regrets, and I know I lived a good life.
Yeah.
um so I kind of wake up and I look out at the beautiful Gulf of Mexico, and um I feel so blessed that it's like you woke up today.
Yeah.
And so for my mental health, what are you gonna do today? Kind of when I wake up in the it takes me like out like honestly, it takes me like 3 hours to like be awakened with it. And in that amount of time, like, so I like wake up and I have something to drink, and I really reflect on like the daily goals. Okay, so what are you gonna do today to improve your mental health, or in the very least to not make it worse,
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah. You don't want to make it
like
worse.
what are you gonna do today? And something I really focus on is I've always really had good confidence. I'm overly confident. With like I did not stop in Miami in case I ran into Pitbull and he just like had to take me then and there. Like I'm like that's the level of confidence I have in myself is like it could happen. You never
You
know.
never know, right?
He could be into this. So I mean,
Yes.
like I didn't want to put the temptation out there for Miami. But part of that comes from every single day I try to look at myself and man, like one thing about myself, if I can find one thing that I like about myself today, and so every day I do it, and man, like soon you really start to be like, dang, you all right, girl? Like, you ain't so bad. But it's a process that has taken years of positive self talk. So I do that, um, uh, and then I'm like, okay, I got to get my workout in. I got to get my workout in,
Yes.
and not so that I can go and like, well, I did my workout so I can eat my way through Key West, but like, I just know I'm gonna feel better if I do it.
Oh, definitely.
Um, but so I'm at a campground, and campground culture is very different. The campers around me have really taken me kind of in. I've had dinner with a couple different campers the 2 nights that I've been here, and you really kind of become this family. And so I went out to eat and do some sightseeing with two of the campers today.
Oh, that's awesome.
So just getting in cars with strangers.
Yeah.
Everything we learned not to do when we were little, I'm doing it.
This introvert stuff is really working out for you,
It
Elizabeth. I gotta
really
say.
is. And also I didn't end up being dumped in the Everglades. So
Well, that is a win-win.
that's a win. I had good Cuban food, and that was a hard thing too. Was like you're down here, you are as close to Cuba as you will probably ever be. Have some tostones and don't hold any guilt over yourself about it. And like that was literally a goal of mine for this week. Like eat the key lime pie and don't hold any moral value to that. Like you had the slice of pie and then like you were in Key West and you did it and you're done, and so tomorrow you have a salad for lunch or whatever it is. But um battling that little voice in your head where it's like, I'm gonna have this and it was damn delicious. I'm gonna be real honest with you. Okay.
Okay.
We go to this place in Key West called Sandy's for a Cuban sandwich, and I get some tostones, which are like smashed and fried plantains. The only thing that would have made it better, you already know how I feel about Pitbull.
Yes.
There was a Cuban man working that kitchen who he was speaking to some of the staff, and I was like, hello, what? I poppy, like for real. Uh, how much do I have to pay you to stand here and feed me this food and just speak? Just speak. Hand feed me and speak. That's the only thing that would have made that experience better on such a real level. But so it's still that battle of like, yeah, okay, so I had the Cuban sandwich and I had the tostones and I stopped when I was full, which meant not eating all of the sandwich, which was still that like, okay, well, I have to wrap it up and take it with me because you can't throw away food because there are starving children in Africa or
Yeah.
whatever story you were told as a kid, to make you eat your supper.
Yes.
So I still have half of a Cuban sandwich in my tent, but like not associating guilt with that. And then we came, so then we like drove by and we saw some of the sites, but it is hella hot and there are so many tourists. I was like, I'm so good, dude. Like we're good to go back whenever, like whatever. And I did my workout. And it was a 12-minute workout and I got it in, and it was like deadlifts and friggin' push-ups and upright rows where you stand and you like lift the weight up like you're zipping your jacket kind of, right?
Yeah.
And the endorphin release was like, I feel so good. But I guess by the time this airs, it will have already happened. But so Veterans Day weekend, I'm doing a 5K
Yeah.
with the company that does my sandbags, and it supports the SEALs Future Foundation. So as a military family, and I've drank with SEALs, I've lived near SEALs, and it's such a respected community from me and any special forces families. So I'm doing a 5K. It was a great idea uh, that you do the 5K. Basically, it's a burden run, so mine will for sure be a walk. But you basically walk and you carry the sandbag on your back or
Oh
on your
man.
shoulder. So the endorphins were so good after my workout today. I was like, girl, yes, grab that sandbag, go do a mile.
Yeah, why
Just,
not?
it's going to be like in 4 days, you're going to have to do the 5K. So like just do a mile every day leading up to it. Right.
That's right. You got to
Like
do it.
halfway through, I was like, endorphins will lie to you. Okay. They'll
Yeah.
make you feel like you could take on, Macho Man, and like I know you're a wrestling fan, so like
Oh
I'm in the
yeah.
ring. I got 1,000 suits,
Yeah.
put my sandbag on and I'm off. No, what was I thinking? Like, but so you feel good, and then I took a nap. And it was beautiful. But I'm, so it's a special situation where I'm on the road, and um, there's no stress, there's no pressure, and it was like, not that my life is super stressful, but man, like you just to be able to run away from it all and get to this place where I'm satisfied with how I am living. I'm satisfied with the work that I'm doing on accepting who I am as a person. I
Yes.
think one of the things, and you might have experience from the male perspective on this, but one of the things that they don't tell you about weight loss, we all know it's not rapid at all, but
Yeah.
like I am very used to the dimensions of my body, right? Like my weight was always very proportionate to my body,
Yes.
and you lose weight not at all proportionately.
No. No.
And so for me, it's like, oh my God, like my gut looks so much bigger as I have lost weight
Oh
because
yeah.
I'm not losing the belly fat. Like I'm losing everywhere else, but not the belly fat. And so to work on every day, not criticizing myself and not, I would never say that to somebody else. I would never be like, yeah, you're working really hard, but like you gonna do some crunches tonight? Like I would never say that to another person. So why do I feel that it's acceptable to say that to myself? um so to work on that, I'm not satisfied with where I am yet. I know that there's still work to be done.
Yes.
um and I know I can be better about how I speak to myself.
Well, that
um
is very key. Yes. You
you
got to
know but
be.
but I'm satisfied with how I am working on it. And that consistency with just, every day, be kind to yourself. Every day, you're not working out because you ate the Cuban food, and you're not working out because you're going to have key lime pie. You're working out because it's going to make you feel so good.
That's right.
And for me, my sandbag is only 20 pounds. But I mean, my sandbag is 20 pounds. Um, some people it's going to be lighter. Some people it's going to be ridiculously heavier. But
Yep.
like, if you'd have asked me last year if I'd have done a mile with 20 pounds on my shoulders, I'd have told you were crazy. So, like I'm satisfied with the work that I'm putting in, and it's going to make me feel so strong.
Yeah.
Um and like I can conquer anything, and kind of an exaggerated sense of confidence with like, maybe I will do that 10K in Cincinnati. But then I'm like, oh, but like you're gonna be on the road. You're not gonna be, just stick with the 5K, Elizabeth.
Well, speaking of which, this is a good spot. We can wrap on this. 2020
Yeah.
is 2020 is next week. Remember, we're airing this on Christmas.
Yeah. A whole new decade.
Right? So, what is Elizabeth planning for this new year? Like, give me your top 3 goals for 2020.
For sure bring back the flapper look because we living in the 20s. No. So for 2020, top 3 things realistically, for me, I think that it's very important to not really make a resolution, but to set realistic goals for yourself.
Oh my God, yes.
So, for me, the realistic goals for 2020 look like: one, continue to work on my sobriety and being clean. And so when I say being clean, like I had abused prescription medication in college, maybe a little recreational marijuana before it was like legal, like back in the day.
Sure,
Like
sure.
like nothing crazy or or whatever, but it's still something that I struggle with even 10 years later. Um, so like not giving into the temptation of
Right.
any of my vices or addictions. That is something I work on daily, and um to work on that like addictive personality where so like it doesn't necessarily have to be an illegal drug. It doesn't have to be alcohol. Like it can be overspending. It literally can be going into the truck stop and buying 5 packages of the dill pickle slices, as if you're never going to see another truck stop again. So
Yes.
it's that addictive behavior. That's one of the really big things I want to work on in 2020. Like recognizing that when it's not necessarily something that society would look at and say, "Oh, that's bad,"
Right.
but to recognize it in myself and really work on like, you're gonna be okay. You don't have to. You don't have to react as if you're that abused kid still, and like that's probably something I'll be working on for the rest of my friggin' life, but
Yeah.
that's a big one for me to to recognize it and correct that behavior. Number two, my anxiety. Like I think that we are living in a society and in a generation where people are much more open about their mental health struggles. And
Yes.
so I think it feels like, oh my God, everybody's walking around with anxiety or depression or PTSD or, postpartum and all of these things. Well, I think people always have been, but now we're being a little more open about it.
I would agree with
Um,
that. Yeah.
yeah, and I, people will be like, "Are you coming through Utah? Stop and say hi to me." And I'm kind of like, "Oh, yeah, okay." I would really love that, and that's a genuine and a sincere. I would really love that. I would love to be able to put faces to these names and hug these people that you say like, "Oh, sending you hugs." Like I would love to hug your neck and to high five you or whatever.
Yeah.
To fight the anxiety to do that though, and to carry out meeting people, like getting over that fear and that anxiety, that'll be a big thing that I'm working on in 2020. And I think I'm gonna be more open about, yes, I did this amazing thing, but also, yes, I'm afraid of human trafficking. And yes, I'm afraid of, just the violence that I'm going to see across the country. And
Sure.
yes, I'm worried about all of these things that could happen. And I could go to this meetup and nobody would like me. Like, those are things that I think that I don't think people see when they see a happy picture of me meeting people that I've known for years on Instagram. They don't see the behind the scenes, that like whole like workup where like I have to, be my own like pep squad. Like, you can do it. They're gone. Like, they already like you. They like you. So
Oh
go say
yeah.
hello.
I can
Like,
relate.
I want to be more open about that is the behind the scenes um that you don't really see. That's one of my big ones. And then I would say my third big one for 2020, man, it's so funny. I was born in 84, so it's like, wow, like it's a new decade, and I'm gonna be turning 40 within that decade, and but part of it is just that self-acceptance
Yeah.
that I think we're all on the hunt for, um to be okay with who I am as a person, to work on that I am enough, and in the places where I am not enough, is it something that I can work on? Is it something that I'm really not good enough for, or is that just what society tells? Like, really, journaling about it, or having that real conversation with myself about, are you being a little dramatic? Or is this something you can work to improve on all aspects of myself, in my
Right.
religious life, in my weight loss, and in my nutrition? Am I doing, to not, I think that we're all liars. We're all master liars, and we lie to ourselves. And it's like, yeah, like, I'm eating the best I can. Are you? Like, I'm doing my workout. Are you? So kind of like at least being honest with myself. Am I accepting who I am? Am I loving who I am? Am I maybe, like, as an addictive personality, am I pushing for perfection instead of the progress? That is one of my maybe biggest vices, is if you're not doing it right, why are you doing it? And like, you as in me, like, if
Yes.
I'm not doing something 100%, why? It's like I struggle so bad with all or nothing. Like, if you're not doing it right and you're not giving it 100%, don't even bother.
Yeah.
And that's such a negative way to go through life,
It sure
um, and
is.
and so unnecessary, that it's like, if you gave your 100%, and maybe that was somebody else's 40 or 50%, but I know I gave it my all. Man, be satisfied with that. Like, accept that about yourself. Like, like, I'm gonna be 40 soon. Like, you have to reach a point in your life where you're good enough. So that's it, man. Working on staying away from my vices, living the good life, kind of walking the line. I already forgot number two. I was gonna do a quick short recap. It was staying away from my vices, accepting who I am as a person.
Mm,
Do the
yeah.
little, you know what? If you're listening to it, do the little rewind, 15 seconds.
Yes.
You'll know what number two was.
There was a lot in there. You
It was
have
a
so much
lot. I'm
ambition. I
so
love it.
long-winded. This is a 50-minute interview. We're at an hour and a half.
I think you may have a future in podcasting. I'm just going to throw this out there. Has anybody ever told you that?
Except I don't have the work ethic to do it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Now,
You know what? If I could call into somebody every week and talk, but then they did the work for it. So if anybody wants to be like a silent, and you can even be like my sidekick, you don't have to be like the silent partner. But if
yeah.
anybody is like, I'm too shy, but that girl, hit me up, son.
Well, I will tell you that there's an app for your phone that's called Anchor. Now, I don't personally use it. I have a little bit of a higher quality system, but this is very like
You have the whole system.
I'm trying to run the whole system, but this is very entry level. So basically it's an app you download on your phone and you literally hit the record button, you start talking, and when you're done, you take your finger off of it, you type in a name and you hit save, and it just goes out to everybody. That's really pretty simple.
Tell you what, my Instagram stories verge on like 3 to 4 minutes at a time.
Yes.
So can you imagine me with a podcast of my own?
I think you would dominate the podcast game, Elizabeth. I'm just saying. I've been podcasting now for 12 years. I know talent I know talent when I see it. That's you. Because you can talk your ass off. Props. Respect.
Yeah. So my grandpa used to call me the mouth of the South. True word.
And you know what to think? I just opened up our DM from a week ago and you said, quote, "Are you asking me to be a guest on your podcast? I'd be down, but I don't think I'm all that interesting." You know what, Elizabeth? I'm calling bullshit. Bullshit. All caps.
Why do people want to hear about me?
I don't know. Tell me why. An hour and 37 minutes in, and I'm absolutely riveted. I'm like, I have to wrap this thing up because I have to go to bed to get up at 2:45 in the morning. But at the same time, I'm like, good God, this could be a 2 or a 3-part podcast easily.
Unreal.
Can you believe this? My goodness, you didn't think at all you'd be interesting. And I guarantee you are going to have people in your DMs like, yo, what is up?
Holla! And if Pitbull is listening, I can come back to Florida. I mean,
oh my God, Mr. Worldwide.
I think people might think I'm joking. I am upset. It's horrible. I need to get out of Florida. I'm telling you, it's bad.
You just want Pitbull to break you down like a shotgun. That's what you want, is it not?
And like just everything about that's a whole nother hour. That's a different podcast. That's not what this is about.
Oh my goodness. Well, I think it's safe to say we're going to have a part 2 at some point. Is that fair to say?
Yes. And Cincinnati. I'm excited. I'm going to look it up. I'm going to sign up. I'm going to do the 5K.
I'll tell you what right now. While we're here, I'm going to go ahead and copy this link and I'm going to drop it in your DM. And then
the code is Gary10.
Yes, there you go. See?
Yep. Okay.
You're like a great hype person. You could just hype it up for me right there.
Guess what I did, guys? I'm doing a 5K. I'm eating some Skyline chili. I'm gonna see y'all there.
There it
Gary
is.
10.
Gary 10. There it is. Put in the code Gary 10 and come hang out.
Yeah. Oh, that's gonna be so much fun. I can't wait.
I can't wait. Well, let me tell you what, Elizabeth, this is why I'm a firm believer. Even though I'm introverted, I'm a firm believer that when you get out of your comfort zone and you interact with brand new people, even though we've interacted on Instagram, but actually like getting on the phone and having a voice to voice conversation, I feel like we're totally buddies now, as if we weren't before, but now we're definitely buddies. And I mean, this is an incredible conversation we've had here. I feel like so much better as well. We're staying up for. I'll have you know, I am up an hour past my bedtime, and this was worth every minute. You were worth every minute.
Remember that. So what's your workout tomorrow? Remember that when it's like 3 a.m., you're doing those flights of stairs you always do. You're like, but she was so funny.
It was worth every minute, and I couldn't thank you enough for your time.
I loved it. And Happy New Year!
Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. This is on Christmas, so Merry Christmas. And
Happy Holidays.
Happy Holidays.
Singing. Yeah, no. I mean, I'm listening. So this is recording like the beginning of November. I'm listening to that Christmas music. I ain't even gonna lie, girl. So by the time this drops, I'll be like, I was just getting in the mood for the podcast.
Exactly. And one more time, tell the people how to find you on Instagram, because it's a must follow at this point. It's must follow.
So my Instagram is, you do the little @ cheers to my health.
Awesome.
That's where you'll find all my shenanigans.
Get over there. Stop what you're doing right now. I know you're on your phone listening. You got the podcast app. You have an iPhone. Hopefully, if you don't, you're not that intelligent, but just swipe up, open up the Instagram.
See me in my Christmas jammies that I'm going to make my husband wear matching ones.
Oh, there you go. We gotta wait for that picture. So cheers to my health. Elizabeth is a must follow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What a great podcast this was. And now I'm going to get to bed and hope to get up without oversleeping. This is going to be amazing.
Yeah. All right. awesome. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody. I literally just waved. That's okay. We're going to edit that out. Bye, everybody.
No. We don't edit here. I'm leaving all this shit in.
I literally lifted my hand and waved at my phone. God. Past my bedtime too, Gary.
All right. Well, guess what? Get your ass to bed. I'm on my way right now. And
Bye.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
You're so welcome. Bye-bye.
Remember at the beginning of the show, I mentioned a little thing called Patreon? Well, I'd love to have you join me. But Gary, what is Patreon? It's a website that is helping small creators like me raise funds to further expand their creative visions. For as low as $1 a month, you can help me further my dream of reaching as many people as possible and eventually taking the show on the road to meet all these fine people face to face and add a video element to this podcast. If you were to donate $4 a month, you'd be hearing this show a few days earlier with no commercials and getting access to my close friends group on Instagram. Donate $10 a month and you get all that plus your name right at the beginning of the show alongside other producers. But act fast. That tier is limited to 10 people. I've got a whole lot more to offer and you can get all the details over at patreon.com/Gary Cantrell. If you made it this far, I really appreciate you. Thanks so much for checking out the show and I'll talk to you again really soon. Hardworkalwayswins.com. It's more than just a clothing line. It's my mantra. I speak it, I wear it, I live it, and I'd love to have you join the Hard Work Squad. We're constantly adding new items to the store, including our brand new Future-ish hats, which come in a variety of colors, including camo. I mean, who doesn't like camo? We also just put our famous Splash logo in gold to match our OG logo, and there's so much more here. You just got to check it out. Here's the best part. Use the code PODCAST at checkout to take 10% off of your very first order and join the Hard Work Squad today.